Hey everybody, it's John DeSimone, and this is my presentation, Explain the Design Structure Matrix, and show how it could be used within a company to support business processes. The topics that I go over here in this presentation are iteration, DSM definition, how do you read a DSM, and how can DSM be used to support. I start with iteration because it helps me define DSM, and so we'll start. And this picture shows three processes. They're called iterations because the way the processes are executed are the same. The goals may be different, but in this case, each one of these processes will go through four separate sub-processes. And that would be review, planning, development, and testing. So an iteration can also be called a repetition. And the results of the integration are used as a starting point for the next iteration. And that's an important thing. And that in particular in the top right corner, you'll notice that there are three iterations, but iteration 1 feeds into iteration 2, 2 feeds into 3, yet the sub-processes are all the same: analyze, design, implement, and test. And the key is that one feeds off the other, so they're interdependent and they go in a sequence. Sequence and interdependency. You know, we had a nice excerpt in the module notes, and it says, in an iterative business process, it's important to consider the sequencing of processes, since the processes can be highly interdependent. So I'm an engineer, and I have to produce packages that have drawings and instruction based on information I get from analysts and assessors, and I send that off and provide that to our integration teams and our third-party vendors. So if the sequence is off, if I don't get information that's important, I can't put it in my package, and therefore my integrators and third-party vendors are at a disadvantage, which also shows the interdependency. So there's something that's very important there by getting things in right at the right times. It's very important, and it speaks to what DSM allows us to look at. So what is DSM? Well, it's a tool, and that tool is basically a square matrix with the same number of rows and columns. The columns and rows represent components or sub-processes, and a diagonal is created where a number from a row meets the same number from a column. There's a differentiation that the diagonal creates between forward dependency and iteration. Everything below is forward dependency, everything above is iteration. And entries are represented by X's or ones that. This is an example from our module notes, and the thing I want you to look at the most is the gray bars. Basically, process 3, which is design beta widgets, is dependent upon input it receives from 1, 2, and 6. 1 and 2 are below the diagonal, 6 is above the diagonal, which states that 1 and 2 are inputs that 3 needs to move forward, but 6 is feedback, and that's an iteration. Reading column 3, for the same activity, you'll see that that design beta widgets process provides inputs for activities that go on after 3 is completed, and that would be for 4, 5, 6, and 7. So this shows interdependency, it shows sequence, and the importance of which. Something that you would want to do with these tools is try to have as little iteration as possible. You're always going to need feedback, but the idea is to not go backward as much. That adds time and adds money. How can DSM support business process? Well, it gives a better representation of a sequence of tasks, and it allows for a more realistic execution schedule. And this will save time, energy, and money, and it's just a great tool for PMs and management to use. Well, that's my presentation, and I'm looking forward to your comments. Thank you very much.